Yo guys, what's up? Jonas here, and today I'm going to teach you how you can fix your failed, strict, or any issues that you're facing with your net type on your PS4. And this method works for all the routers, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you on two different routers which I happen to have in my house. So first of all, go ahead and type in CMD in the search bar of your PC. This will open command prompt. Once it's open, type in ipconfig, which stands for IP configurations. After this, a list of numbers is gonna open. You're gonna have to note down two numbers, the default gateway and the subnet mask. In my case, they happen to be 192.168.0.1 and 255.255.255.0. Once this step is done, we're gonna move to the next step, which is setting up a static IP address for our PS4. Now that you have noted it, go to your PS4. On your PS4, hit Settings, Network Settings, set up Internet connection. From here you can either use LAN cable or Wi-Fi, but I'm using LAN cable. Now you want to set it in a custom way, and for IP address hit manual and focus at this point. This is where people got lost. In your IP address you have to enter a number. The first three digits, which are 192.168.0, are the ones of my default gateway, because my default gateway starts with 192.168.0, so these are the one that you should write, and you should write the one from your own default gateway. They could be like this one and they might not. Now the second number that you have to enter is one above 120, because you don't want it to interfere with any other device, so you can use 123 if you want. From here we're gonna move to the subnet mask. The subnet mask, you already have it. It's 255.255.255.0 usually, and you have it from command prompt. And then the default gateway, you also have it from command prompt, so make sure you enter it and use the right one. And now for the DNS, you have two choices. The first one is being to enter Google's DNS, which primary is 8.8.8.8 and secondary 8.8.4.4, or you can either enter your default gateway in both cases. So for your primary DNS will be 192.168.0.1 and your secondary 192.168.0.1. MTU settings are automatic and do not use proxy server. From here, just leave your PlayStation and go to your PC or laptop. But keep in mind, you use your own default gateway as a reference. Now that you have set up a static IP address for your PS4, we have to move on to the actual thing. Now the methods we are going to use are very simple. They are port forwarding and port opening using DMZ. Now the first example is with the Tenda router. For the password it's usually admin, and for other routers it's also like username and password are admin. If they are not, your internet provider might have changed them. Now in the port forwarding section, for example in Tenda, hit advanced, like the advanced tab, and then you go to your port forwarding. Right there, the IP address will be the static IP address that you have set up for your PS4, and it's gonna then ask you for different ports for the internal and external port. You do not want to select any of the suggested ports of anything. You want to choose one of the ports that I'm going to show you in a few seconds. And the ports that you want to use are divided in two categories, TCP and UDP. So for the TCP, when it's only one number, for example 80, both the internal and the external port are 80. So in the internal port hit 80 and external hit 80, and then hit the plus sign, which also like is add. Now in this way you have forwarded the first port. Now you have to do the same steps for the different ports, which are 443, 1935 and 3478-3480. And you're gonna need to use the same IP address for the different ports that you're going to forward, because this is your PS4, and make sure that you have it correctly, or else it won't work. So once you have entered it for like the ports which are one number, you have different ports that are two numbers. On the ports that are two numbers,
The smallest number is the internal port, and the other one is the external port. So 304,078 is the internal port, and 3480 is the external port. And now you are done with the TCP ports. Now the next port is a UDP, and for this one the UDP is 3478 is 3479. So the external port is 3479 and the internal is 3478, and your IP address remains the same. Once you do that, hit plus sign and then save. This way you have forwarded all the ports for your PS4 if you want to do it, and just make sure you restart your router and make sure that everything is okay. Now the second method is using DMZ. The DMZ is directly under the port forwarding section, and all you have to do is enable it and enter the static IP of your PS4 and then hit save, and that's it. Very simple.
So if you got this, it's very good, you understood it. If you didn't, I want to make sure that you completely understood it. I'm going to show you the same thing but on a different router, which is the TP-Link router. And in this router, it's not in the advanced tab, it's in the forwarding tab, the virtual servers. It basically changes a bit between every router, where the port forwarding tab is basically search for anything related to ports, forwarding, or virtual servers. Right there, the service port is going to be the number of the port. The second one, you don't really need it, like the internal port, unless it's like two numbers. And the 80 port doesn't really work with TP-Link, and I'm gonna put how you can do it in the description if you want to forward the port 80. But right there, we're gonna just enter the port 443. Now if you notice, I entered a different IP address, like the digits are 192.168.1, not 0.0, and this is basically because the second router has a different default gateway than the first one, and since I'm using for this video 192.168.0.123, and I want it to work and didn't want to disconnect all the routers, and it will take me a lot of time, I'm just gonna enter 0.1, but you enter 0.0 if 0.0 is your default gateway. And I have to use 0.1 or it will give me an error like you saw. So we're gonna use the IP address that we set up for our PlayStation, and then we're gonna set up the port. I'm gonna show you a few examples. We're not gonna do all of them. You understood how it works. And then for the DMZ, you just hit enable and enter the static IP address of your PS4 as we did in the Tenda router, and that's it. Simple, very easy. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace!
My name is Jeff.
Turn down for what?